Hello, welcome to Souls Intersect. This is the annual 2017 reading for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. I apologize, by the way, for taking so long to get this out. It is for the entire year, though, so that's good. At the center of the reading is a card that will represent a general theme throughout the year for you, Libras. And the four other sections are the 4 quarters of the year. So the 2 cards at the top represent the first quarter, and then it goes clockwise for the other 3 quarters. So you do have the Moon card at the center of your reading for this year. This is a really beautiful card to have. It's representative of your subconscious self, but also your sensitive, intuitive side. It's interesting to have this come up for you, being an air sign. It may feel like a little bit of a different energy for you throughout this year, Libras, and you may, being that it's towards the end of January now, you may already feel like maybe a little bit of a different version of yourself. Or like things are, like you're processing things differently, perceiving things differently in a sense. And I feel like what's going on there is not only are some emotions coming up from your subconscious, but I feel that you're being prepped to be more aware of what's happening with you on the intuitive level. So this is very much about intuitive abilities for those of you interested in wielding those abilities. For others, I am really drawn to the actual moon too. I feel like full moons will be a great time for you to manifest throughout this year. I do feel, excuse me, I do feel like they will highlight things happening for you on the emotional level though. And when I say this, it doesn't mean that it's going to feel bad. The idea is that these are things that were already there, so you were already feeling them in a way, but now they're more exposed. It's that full moon casting light on the darkness. So they're exposed in a way. It's happening because it's time for it to happen. Like I said though, it might feel a bit strange. You may be already feeling the effects of this. It just feels like a very watery year for you, for lack of a better word. Very intuitive, very sensitive, and it's a little bit hard to describe what's coming to me, but again, it's perception. It's like I feel like you'll be perceiving things more closely with your emotions, whereas maybe in the past it was more mental or something like that. It could be different for all of you. So that's a pretty powerful message. In the first quarter, you have the Hanged Man and the 9 of Wands. What I'm getting there is that I feel like there is something that carried over from last year, probably the end of last year. It could still be carrying over throughout this month of January, and then possibly into February and March, where it feels like maybe a project or something that you were working on at the end of 2016 that you actually expected to be done, and it may have become a bit tedious at this point. Again, I feel like you had a goal set or an expectation that it would be done by the end of 2016, and that didn't quite happen. There were some delays. It is the Hanged Man. It's a major arcana, so my sense is that the delay is for a purpose. I really feel like this might benefit you. So while it might feel tedious right now, I do think that any delays in anything happening is for a very powerful reason. And it's interesting seeing the moon play into this energy too. One thing I'm getting is that it could actually be something related to emotions that has caused some sort of delay, either yours or someone else involved. And the other thing is to just follow your intuition about the timing of this. in both understanding why a delay might be happening, but also in gauging how much longer it might take, because I do sense that there's that tedious feeling. I also sense that maybe some of you have sacrificed what you need or want emotionally because of some sort of a battle, some sort of a fight. It could actually just be with another person, like something that you're trying to sort out, a stage that you're trying to get to. That could be like in a relationship, but it could also be a work project, which is kind of what I was alluding to before. Then in the second quarter of the year, I feel like some movement takes place. My sense is that whatever this is probably still going to be happening in stages. I feel like, so for some of you, maybe something was supposed to finish in 2016, but for others, it might be that some initial stage of something was supposed to finish, like the go ahead for building or something like that. That would be the most basic thing. But it is a lot of wands cards, so it's the 9 of wands, and then here in the second quarter we have the 3 of wands and the ace of wands. So it may not be like that basic or work related even. For some of you it could be. It could be more about a creative project. It could also be about stages or steps on your spiritual path. And it could just be about taking action with something in general. It could be in relation to a romantic endeavor, something related to family, children. The delay seemed like it definitely had to do with action in some way, whether it be literal or figurative. So then in the second quarter, with the 3 and the ace, I feel like there's a new spark of energy. And whereas before you might not have had the chance to solidify anything, in the second quarter, you will see the beginnings of that. And I haven't done this with other readings, but I want to jump to the fourth quarter just briefly, and I'll come back to it too. I see a link between the 3 of wands and the 3 of pentacles there. I feel like whatever you solidified, even if it's just an idea in the second quarter, it's going to actually be even more solidified in the fourth quarter with that 3 of pentacles, and possibly in a more visible sense. It could be, so again, I'm just going to use building as a metaphor. If you got, like, in the first quarter, there were some delays and finally you got permits, for example, it's like in the second quarter, once that's happened, all of your plans were mapped out and agreed upon and solidified. And then in the fourth quarter, the actual building starts. And there's no turning back from there. It's real tangible evidence that you're moving forward and building something up. And possibly quickly with that Chariot. So I will come back to that again. And again, it's not necessarily about building, but that's a good way to look at it. It could be anything. It could be something else related to work or people, relationships. The other thing that I want to say about the 3 of wands in the second quarter and the ace of wands in relation to the moon is that there are these really powerful, inspired ideas coming through, and then there's a little bit of vagueness with the moon. So some of it is how you're perceiving things. It's happening internally, but that same energy could kind of flood into other things throughout the year, just kind of making them a little bit murkier. And that doesn't mean that it will spoil any plans. And it doesn't mean that the inspiration will get dampened necessarily. I just get the sense that it's going to be a bit harder to trudge through things at certain points anyway. My feeling about that, though, is that it's not like this doomed, like, slow energy throughout this year for some reason that's just meant to slow you down or make things unclear. It's not like that. It feels like it's a purpose. There's a purpose to it. It's a major arcana. It is very much about you changing your perception on things, and I feel like it really has to do with following your gut, your intuition. For some of you, again, that could be more heavily on the spiritual level, like really going inward and working with those intuitive messages and perceptions. But for others, if that's not something that you're interested in really working on more right now, it could just be more about following your gut. So if you feel like even something as basic as it's hard to focus on a plan happening in the second quarter with this idea and then forming that idea with the Three of Wands, if it just seems a little bit unclear, that's not a sign that it's not a good time to do it. It's not a sign that you're not following your inspiration. It's trying to point you in the direction of using your intuition, not bringing it as much to the mental level. You're an air sign, and you are used to processing things very clearly and concisely on the mental level. And now you're being encouraged to follow your heart more, follow your gut, your intuition. So you're going to have that inspiration, and you're going to be able to help it to come to life. You're just going to be encouraged to use your intuition more. Now, in the third quarter, we have the Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups. These are both water signs as well. There's a couple of things with that. I do feel like maybe this is a period where you're not going to be as focused on whatever this other project is. A lot of you, it probably will be in relation to something with work, because it's very action related. And with that Three of Pentacles in the fourth quarter, it does feel like building more in that way, like the material way, or in relation to work. So in the third quarter, it's not that it won't be productive, but I just get the sense that the focus is going to be more on people. I feel for some of you that this is a wife and a child. And I sense that this is going to be a time when you're going to be encouraged to spend more time with them. I also feel for some of you that you may be represented by the Queen of Cups yourself, since you do have that water energy more strongly with you this particular year. And that the Page of Cups, a couple of things. I still sense a child for some of you. And for others, I just sense this younger version of yourself. So some of that emotional stuff coming up from the surface could be processing something from childhood. And I believe that I had this card right in this spot for Virgo. So some of you might have a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, and check out that reading too. There was some stuff with intuition in that reading as well. So many of you might be connected to Virgo in some way. If it is you and a younger aspect of yourself, it is definitely all about processing something from the past, using your intuition more, and possibly even developing that intuitive ability. Expressing your love too, not just, it doesn't have to be painful or negative emotions from the past. It could be learning and practicing unconditional love on a higher level, expressing your emotions more for some of you maybe who aren't as expressive usually, approaching stuff, so not just perceiving something more on the emotional level, but approaching it more on the emotional level outwardly, so not just how you're receiving it and processing it, but how you're expressing it too. And this might also mean that you're become artistic or creative in some way, more so if you already are. In terms of other people, if it's a child and this is you and your child, I feel like you share this gift, and I feel like some of that emotional expression will be shared between you two. And also if it's creative work, that might be something that you do together as well. If these are two other people in your life, like I mentioned, a wife and child, I really sense that they're both feminine cards, and they're both on that emotional level. It's all about receiving. And I'm coming back to that point of spending more time with them. I feel like I'm just seeing them as like these sponges for your affection and compassion. I'm not getting that they're going through anything. I just feel very strongly that particular period, the third quarter of the year, is going to be really strong for sharing and emotional love, building and sharing with family, enjoying time together, being expressive in that way. And there very well may be some things that are revealed. Again, it doesn't feel like anything negative. I'm not seeing any negative cards here, and I'm not sensing anything. But there may be some things related to emotions that are meant to come to the surface during that period, and that may come from spending more time with each other. If you don't already have a partner or a family, also, this could be someone coming in who does have a child. So maybe not your child as well. And I don't want to paint this picture of like a damsel in distress or anything like that, or if it's male, the male version of that. But I really do feel like, especially if it's a parent and a child coming into your life, that they are in need of affection, and it's not to take care of or to just be in that problem solving position. It just feels like this optimal time to be giving and have them be receiving. That's the perception I'm getting around that. It is a really beautiful time for emotions. It's just very people oriented too. So that's why I get that sense of sharing in things that you're actually expressing with each other and not just necessarily feeling emotional fulfillment. It's not like a 10 of cups where I sense there's a getting married or like completing a stage. It's very much about communicating with people on an emotional level during that period. So briefly with the fourth quarter again, it feels like that's where things kind of pick up again. The Chariot is very much about speed, moving forward to start laying the foundation for whatever this project is. That it definitely feels like it got its start in 2016 and maybe had some delays, but is definitely being built upon throughout 2017. And I feel like you'll really have that tangible proof of it by the end of the year. The Chariot is also water, and it's more of the same message about having these grounding things, these material things, but also how you perceive them and how you work with them, how they relate to you emotionally, and how they fulfill you as well. I feel like it's going to be very rewarding. I know it sounds maybe challenging, but it's definitely with the new way that I think you're going to be perceiving things and working with yourself. I feel like it's going to be a very rewarding year for you on the emotional level. Okay, so I'll wrap this up here. If you have any questions about the reading or about my services, feel free to email me at soulsintersect@gmail.com. Thank you.